I get introduced to the Bear Stearns guys. And they said, welcome aboard. We know who you are. We've heard of you from the Bellies. And a couple of the Morgan Stanley guys said you were awesome to work with. They go, you ready? I said, oh, I'm ready. What the worst thing that can happen to you is I just went in there and started trading. And, this is an animal of a pit, man. Forget the Bellies where it was, quiet, low volume, a tight-knit little group that got everything, all worked together. S&Ps was a huge pit now with like 4 markets going on at all different areas, Recognized a bunch of guys in there, a few. So I went in there one day to trade, and I'm trading, and whipping around pretty good. Not like it does today. For them back then to have like a 100-point range was a big day. But anyway, so started doing okay trading there. And I was in there, and then I got hit. All of a sudden, I lost like 30 grand. I got stuck, and I couldn't get out. And then all of a sudden, I just went through a lot of money. Barry Lynn called me upstairs because I was clearing him at the time.
He was seeing your losses.
He was seeing the losses and everything else like that. I was also Barry's guy in the Bellies too. I do whatever I used to fill his own orders. If I saw something coming, I'd let them know what I thought. So I ended up a lot of these guys. The only one who could touch their orders were me, like in the Bellies. So and I wouldn't stop Barry out unless I thought I had to. Things like that. I really took care of their orders. They were my friends. So Barry called me up in the S&Ps, and at this time now I'm in my new house. My first daughter Jessie's born. My second daughter Annie's born. I have 2 kids now. Everybody, and I just went through a lot of money. Like this wasn't good. I just went through a ton of money. And chasing it in the S&Ps. Barry Lynn called me upstairs. Sat in his office, and he says, I think you got a choice to make. I said, what's that? He goes, you're getting killed. It's like anybody else who has left the meets. A lot of these guys leave the meets and leave the belt, leave where they're comfortable because they're seeing these big markets happening and think they can go trade currencies or S&Ps, and they can't. They're used to trading what they've been trading for 20 years, 25 years. The Bellies, the cattle, the hogs, everything else. He goes, everybody I know that has started to transition is getting hurt. He goes, but you have gone through your whole trading account and then some, your debit. He goes, I think you have a couple of choices here. I go, what's that? He goes, you can either go sell shoes at Chernins down in Skokie. He goes, go back to the pork bellies. He goes, or fill orders in the S&Ps. He goes, I think you'd be great in it. I think there's a ton of business to be had. You're a great order filler. Because I'm behind you all the way. I said, okay. He goes, I'll give you some of my business to start off. He goes, we got a nice deck going on in there. I said, great, that's what I'll do. I wasn't like despondent or depressed. I'm like, all right, if you think that's what I should do, I'm going to do that. But I had learned a big lesson. Okay. New wife, 2 kids, big home, expenses, all this stuff. And just out of lack of knowledge of a market, almost blew through it all. So I went in the pit. I remember first when I went in there to trade, Louis Borsellino saw me. He goes, come on over here, because you were jam-packed sardine. He's telling everybody, move over there. He's standing here, like, all right, and nobody was messing with Louis, okay, and a couple of those other guys. So I looked around where I could stand, and I knew Mick Morkin. I don't know if you knew him, but his brother Kevin.
I know Kevin and Terry.
Yeah. So Kevin and Terry. So Mick was their big brother. And I knew these guys.
I remember him. Yeah.
And they had a sister named Jeannie. I knew them from high school. And I had seen Mick on the floor and stuff. And Mick was older, big, huge guy, played football at Northwestern, could have played for the Green Bay Packers, but he got some cancer, that kind of derailed his career. The biggest, nicest guy you ever met. So Mick Morgan was over there, and I said, listen, I want to bring some business in here, and I'm looking for a place to stand. He goes, I'll make sure you can stand next to me. So I went up there. I got a clerk, and Lynn Waldock came and gave me some paper orders. I mean, okay. I knew how the market worked and how the S&Ps traded because I've been trading in there and watching at the time. And Barry had a stepbrother in there. Bobby Alpert was his name, BSA. And he was great guy. And, I wasn't sure if he was too happy that I was going to be getting a few of his orders. But, he was very nice to me about it because, I think that came from him. So anyway, I started off with him. And I was filling, and you could trade up there, okay? And Mick Morgan, then there was Mick Morgan, there was Doug Young, and then there was a guy, I don't know if you remember Sibo. You probably wouldn't know. But Paulie Carbonaro, which I knew, and he was friends with the Kalenis, part of the Kalenis family. But he worked for, I think, Menini and Oberman, okay, who I didn't really know. And they weren't too happy I came in there. But there wasn't a whole lot they could do about it. A little later. So anyway, I started with the Lynn Waldock, filling that, trading small from up top, better vantage point, and to be quite honest, better access to an order coming in. Now, remind you, there were no minis back in the day to trade off of, but the order fillers took care of each other pretty good up there, so I started that, and then once noticed I was in the pit, a guy came over and he said, well, you want to do my stuff? Because I had done some of their stuff in the bellies and everything else. And then they got changed to the S&P desk. When that got bigger, they got transferred over there. But I knew some of these guys. I said, oh, man, you're here? You want to do some of my business? All of a sudden, I was doing some Morgan Stanley. Okay. And all of a sudden, a few others. And it started to take off a little bit. And I was doing trading. And then Kalentis knew I was in there. We had become good friends, and all that other stuff. But didn't work together in a capacity like that. So a lot of guys were, give me a little bit of a hard time, a little bit. And one certain guy who did who filled Bear Stearns orders, he was a real jerk to me in there, Like, okay. But I mean, he didn't have to be that nasty. I'm not going to name his name, but he thought he was something else. And, the Bear Stearns was the claw. Mm-hmm. So he always had shit to say until one day I went over. I said, listen to me. I said, you keep this shit up. I said, I'm going to punch you right in the fucking mouth. I don't give a shit who you are, how big or broke you are. I said, all right, enough's enough. Okay. And he backed down from that, but he was just a jerk. So I had gone down to Florida with Mary, I remember, and Mick Morgan had told me with Lehman Brothers, because I did some of their stuff in the bellies, that I could do some of their overflow too. And then there was a lady named Sandra Donovan who ran it, and Lenny Teifeld who ran a lot of it. So they were very good to me. So I was solid there now. And then I think Kalenis called me from down there and said, Bear Stearns has come to me and they, we're going to cut a deal on some brokerage and stuff like that. He goes, you want to do it? I said, hell yeah. The only reason I said hell yeah, because the guy who treated me like garbage from day one.
He was the Bear Stearns.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I get you.
So.
Karma, baby.
So, and he was a real jerk. He tried to sabotage anytime I got an order. He was a real jerk. So he goes, all right, enjoy your trip to Florida. We'll work it out when you get back, but the Bear Stearns is going to be yours.
Wow.
And it was a big deck. Big deck. I'm in Florida. I remember going, okay, this is good. Okay. So I got back and worked it out. It was no big deal. Had to get another clerk. So I ended up hiring a couple of great clerks. One was Vince Hall. One was Hassan Houston.
I good friend of mine back then.
Who's that?
Hassan.
Was he? Hop?
He came to the Euros later on.
Yeah, he did.
Great guy.
I think he passed away.
Really? He's a pro athlete at one time.
He was a pro athlete. I mean, a great athlete. And we're going to get into some of this as we get going.
Yeah.
I hired him and got him a badge.
Funny guy, too.
Funny as can be. As talented as an athlete as I ever saw. And his badge was Hop. Yep, remember?
Yeah. I played golf with him. He was awesome.
Oh, we did so many things together. He was great. So we're going to get to that. So I hired a couple of clerks first. Vince Hall, Jordy Lisitza. I just love these guys. And maybe another one or two. I think Janice to handle the paper deck, whatever it was, because Lynn-Waldock was a lot of paper. And then when I had Lynn-Waldock paper deck, other firms from me and the Bellies and all the guys I knew in cattle and hogs, they started giving me their paper. But S&Ps now was the ARB. That was new to me.
The hand signals.
The hand signals. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, guys go, you're going to have to learn this. I go, well, you're going to have to be a lot better at it than me. You just watch it and tell me what to do. 10, 20, blah, 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 100, the whole thing. So anyway, so I get back. We get the clerk all set for Bear Stearns. I get introduced to the Bear Stearns guys. Floor manager was a guy named Mark Metzger. Mark was awesome. He was a great guy, and him and his little crew. And they said, welcome aboard. We know who you are. We've heard of you from the Bellies. And a couple of the Morgan Stanley guys said you were awesome to work with. And he goes, we're sick of that guy anyway over there.
The jerk.
So anyway, they go, you ready? I said, oh, I'm ready. I went in that morning. We had the clerk in place. I think the first thing I got was a 50 lot from Bear Stearns.
Which is huge in the S&Ps.
Huge. I think it was a resting order. It was just a limit order, sell 50 at 70, whatever. I got up there, I'm offering 50 at 70. 50 at 70. Well, guess who buys them? The guy over there got an order from one of his. Now, he doesn't know this is going on yet. Okay?
The Bear Stearns guy.
Yeah. He doesn't.
I know where you're going with this, too. You're going to give him the trade.
No, this is great. He buys them. Hey, place. Who were you? I said, hey.
Bear Stearns.
He goes, what? I go, rawr. I go, that would be Bear Stearns. You mother. I'm like, fuck you. So it was great. So that was that. And he comes running behind me and you can't do this. I go, I didn't look for this, man.
They came to me, man.
I go, somebody came to me. I said, I didn't take this from you. Well, you're going to pay. I said, how am I going to pay for it, Ron? How am I going to do that? So anyway, I had Bear Stearns, Morgan Stanley. They started giving me a lot more. They were split between a couple of other people in there, a guy named Glenn Lakin, a couple of other people.
Weren't they paying a lot more per contract than everywhere, right?
Yeah, I think it was $1, someone with $1.50, $2. So I got that, and then the business was solid right off the bat.
What are you doing on a busy day in the spoos? How many?
I was doing a couple of thousand, okay? 2,000 to 3,000, 2,000, but you're getting paid $2.
Right.
$1.50, $2. And this, when I first started filling there, it didn't take long at all. It took a month to get this going. And all of a sudden, then, I started getting more business. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I had a lot. And other people in the pit were like looking at that. But, and then I realized that people on the other side, a guy named Bill Grzinski, Nick Del Negro, they were with Derby and Harry. And, but they were great because we knew each other, in the same circles. And Wally Posner, I got to meet Wally over there.
I remember him.
Wally was great. They were all great. And I'm meeting JoJo. JoJo, awesome. One of the all-time great, nice guys ever.
No question.
No question. So I ended up meeting a lot of guys like that. And then Spike Trading was going on. They had just started. And the guy named Mike Walsh, I don't know if you remember.
Crazy man.
Well,
Crazy man.
No, crazy man, and it's sad. There's a guy who had everything in the world and couldn't find peace.
Yeah, I didn't know what his story is. I just know he's a maniac in the pit.
Yeah, but maniac in the pit, but couldn't find peace outside of it either. I got to know all the Spike guys that were in front of me. Larry Woznicki, Bruce Roden, Joey Lanzito, a whole bunch of them. And they were awesome guys. Dro, Dro was there. I still think Coleman Joe. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Still Armin. However you pronounce that Armenian name. But I got to meet Dro, and I met all these guys.
Kalamian,
that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, I run into his brother once in a great while still, Armin. He left. He was in the S&Ps later, and now he runs this very successful junk company. So I've run
I fought with Dro. So we took the same martial arts from Matsumoto.
Yeah.
Tough guy
and nice as can be. So I started hanging up in the Spike office a little bit because all these Spike traders are around. And my soon-to-be brother-in-law was running Spike trading. Okay? Guy named Tom Saft. And Tom had connections to some other companies. Like there was a company called Rudolph Wolf at the time and a few others. And so he got me that business. And then Danny Riley, Top Step D-Boy, he had to give up desk there. I met with him and we started talking about business. And he gave me a shot to fill some of his 5 lots for his client Marty out of New York. And, I did my best with however, as good as I could do. I took my pride on giving great fills. So I started getting him. And then Danny got a big, giant give-up customer, Capcom, that did monstrous orders. And I ended up getting that. So all of a sudden, I just had a ton of business, and I took care of them to the best I could. Plus, I could trade my account up there and got very good at that up there.
I never did anything to Spoos. Filling in there had to be quite a bit harder than anywhere else, right?
It was a lot harder, a ton harder, but you got used to it, especially when it got busy. It had like 4 different markets going on at one time. This brokerage group had so much business. Louis Flex, he had all this. The decks were huge. That was the pit. That and the Euro now. They were the business. And we were flying around. You know what I mean? And just a ton of business. And I was doing great trading too. Really well trading. And Paulie Carbonero, who worked for Indian Oberman, and he had a lot of business, and I helped him. I let him do my overflow. Mick Morkin from Lehman, Mike Moon Mullins, one of the greatest guys ever. We'll get to a story about him coming, a little later.
He wound up with Mendez, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But he had a raw deal happen to him during the crash in the S&Ps, because he was with Lehman. So I got to know Mike and Mick and Doug Young, all these guys. So we helped each other fill our stuff, and then I got to know the Lehman guys even, and they started giving me business. A guy named Jim Tyndall. So now I was getting from a different Lehman desk. I built up, a huge business. I mean, and I was making a ton trading. So
now at that juncture, did you have anybody to answer to?
No.
Because Barry Lynn got you in there, or
no, Barry,
or he suggested you do that.
He suggested, right? But Barry didn't. No, Barry.
So you just did your own thing, and he gave you some business to start.
He gave me business, and
Mick Morkin let you stand next to him, or he helped you, and you just did it all organically.
And I helped him. I was also real good when somebody had a problem up there, getting it figured out. And here's what we're gonna do. They had an error. They had a this. They had a that. Okay, listen. Here's what we're going to do. You got 20 guys around here who can help you out. Blah, 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 blah. I go, you guys got to get a little smarter with this kind of thing. And so we had a nice network, and and I said, let me know anything I can do. Because now I'm filling more than all of them, and a little bit more exposure, and then, more clerks. And that guy named, I remember NYC, Mick Hyland?
Of course.
Yeah, so Mick was part of the Spike group. And so I kind of gave him his break. He was friends with Mike Walsh at Spike. And Mike asked me, if you get busy, can he help you? I said, of course. So I brought him up to help and fill and get him going, or whatever you want to call it. And then he ended up doing, I think very well, was he with Terry, and who was he with in the Euros?
I don't remember.
Was he across from you?
Mick Hyland?
Yeah.
No, he
was in the back months.
Yeah, I was in the second option.
Okay, so
yeah.
he was back in the third and fourth. So he might have been with RJ and Terry.
Yeah, maybe.
Or Coy or McGuire or Walsh, whatever it was. We got real busy and, and it was just a magical, fantastic time. I had to have Harry the Hat come in and help me. You know what I mean? And then I had a guy, Mike Allebeck.
I remember him too.
Mike MGA was great. He was Kalenis's guy. That's right. He was with Jimmy Kalenis on the Bellies. Became very close with Mike. Loved him. We were all friends. We were all like family. You know what I mean? And that's how I got to meet JoJo. And more of them. And then
JoJo was a deck holder for Dean in the cattle.
In the cattle.
And that's how, when I was first a runner, he was the deck holder with Kirstein, and was another guy there. He passed away. He was JoJo's best friend.
Wait
Kenny?
Tip of my tongue. No. That Kenny was the other guy. I'm forgetting his last name. The guy just passed away. Oh, shit. Nick Giannopoulos.
Yep.
Yeah, I went to his wake. He was awesome too. They were all awesome. And I got to know these people so well. They were like family to me, all these kind of people.
And every one of them a character in their own right.
Oh.
That was the beauty about that place. It brought out the craziness in everybody.
The craziness. I remember, I had met some people on behalf, like Kalenis turned me on to Rosebud on Taylor Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there and I'm like, he goes, that's that guy, that's this guy. And I kind of got to know all of that. And then I remember, Jim had a lot of people working on the floor and visitors on the floor and all sorts of stuff that, those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to know a lot of them. And actually I ended up, hiring a lot of Spilatros in the S&Ps.
I have history with them. That's how I got on the floor.
Yeah. So
you hired Little Vic, right?
I not Little, no. So we're going to get to Little Vic.
Okay.
I'm saving him. He's great.
Okay.
I love that kid. So Vic, Vic,
the brother.
I don't, Vic Jr. I don't remember Vic, not Big Vic, Little Vic. I think he got his seat right away. I don't think he clerked for anybody, if I remember. I'm not sure. Do you remember?
He's the one who got me on the floor, and I didn't know him. My godfather.
So Little Vic,
my godfather was in business with Big Vic, and I met Tony Spilatro when I was a kid.
Right. Met them all.
Yep.
Met them all. But I especially became good friends with Pat Spilatro.
Mm-hmm.
Pat was a dentist, as you know. So I met through him with Jim. And when I moved into Northfield, which we're going to get to, because I wasn't satisfied with my other house now. And I had to have a bigger house.
Back to the distortion of perception of money, right?
Yeah, I remember Kalenis and other people telling me, don't do it. Don't do it. They had their nice houses on cul-de-sacs, paid for. There's $300,000. Don't do it. Well, I did it, and I did it big. But, so, the whole, a lot of the Spilatros worked for me in the S&Ps, and that's how I met Little Vic. And then, I got to meet all those Spilatro brothers, Vic, Vince, Pat, Tony, Michael. Met like Tony and Michael at Hoagie's and all that kind of stuff.
Hoagie's. Was Hoagie's on North Avenue?
North Avenue,
yeah.
Oak Park.
Yep, I've been there many times.
Yeah, so I just remember meeting those guys, and I know Jim was friends with a lot of them. But I didn't learn too much about them until, the 80s, about that. When I got in the Bellies and I started, there were rumors about this or that, but, I just saw a lot of people, through Lewis and Jim, and, you start hearing the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't pay much attention to it. I remember telling my dad about it. I called him and he said, be friends with everybody. Never get associated with anything you shouldn't be associated with. It's good to be friends with people. Because my dad was friends with a lot of gangsters and everything. In our Brooklyn neighborhood where I grew up, we had Castellanos down the street, kept our neighborhood safe. On the street corner was the gangster, the broker, the banker, the garbage man, the policeman, fireman. My dad would hang out at the corner, in Brooklyn, and those guys, especially the Castellanos, because I went to grade school, back in the early 60s with a lot of them. at our Catholic school, and they kept our neighborhood very safe, kept everything very safe. So, but yeah, my dad just told me don't get involved with anything like that. But I got to be friendly with a lot of those kind of people. I remember.
Your dad was a smart dude, wasn't he?
Yes, he was smart, and he kept to himself. But, he met a lot of those people, and somebody, somebody got a membership on the floor, and they say, well, that's this guy's nephew, that's this guy's grandson, that's this guy.
You start to see it, you're connecting the dots. It's,
yeah. And it's like, okay. And I didn't really even hear that guy until I asked, okay, who's that guy? Anyway, it was just, I loved it. I love this S&Ps, or the SPOOs as we call them. And I just had a blast. I mean, got to know all the Spike guys, and they were great to trade with, and we helped each other and everything. And, I just met a whole brand new crew of friends and everything. And it was great. And, got to know everybody in the pit. And, as it's silly, but as you get bigger, and, then more people aren't bound to give you too much shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Unless you control so much paper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gaining power is what it
is. I guess, I didn't even want to say that word.
Influence. Yeah.
That was, a major step up from the bellies. It's all my business now. And plus, my brokerage business and trading, and, the market started to get a little unrest. You know what I mean? Then came my third daughter, Lisa. So now I had 3 girls. And
no correlation to Lisa Marie Presley, right?
Actually, her name is Lisa Marie. So I named my daughter Lisa Marie. Maybe. It probably has something to do with it. So now I get my own limo.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, now you know. So I hate to even talk about this stuff. So now I get my own limo, custom made, phone and back, front, TV, the whole thing. So I have that made. My clerk was Jordan Lasitza, and he said his brother needed a job. So I said he can be my chauffeur. So I hired Jordy's brother as my chauffeur, Jeff, and he was great. And now I have my own limousine, and people are like, are you nuts? And now, I'm making some good money here. Okay, real good money trading and filling. And so I have my beautiful new home, that I bought from Mark Milstein. Gorgeous, decorated, got it all. I ended up meeting Bruce and Ernie Zamersky from the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. It's where everybody got their Porsches and everything else. So I wanted a Porsche. I went up there and met them and became great friends with them and bought my first Porsche up there, a nice black 928. Got to know my neighbors great where I live, Vic Pro and Howard and Lois Kempler. God bless them. God bless Vic. He's gone. But I used to come with these new cars, and Vic was a bean trader, successful, and Howard had his own family business. But I'd pull in with a new car. They'd be like, what are you doing now? In my cul-de-sac, okay, it was all Jewish, okay? So I was the new guy who put up giant Christmas lights on the roof, up all the giant trees. And I remember my neighbors, who I loved, we were great friends, they'd come by and go, what the F are you doing? I splashed it up good, and then I bought 4-wheelers and 3-wheelers in my neighborhood, and I drive them in the snow. And, give the kids rides and sleds down the streets of Northbrook. And then I'd go behind, which wasn't far from the tollway, and cruise them out there. And, I did those for a year. And then I got sick of those one year. And I think it was a UPS guy came by who was delivering something. He goes, those are cool. I go, I'm sick of them. You want them? He's like, what, man? I said, just take them. So I let him take all my 4-wheelers and stuff like that, And, so me and Mary, I had everything going on. So me and Mary we were driving somewhere in North.
And you have 3 kids at this juncture.
Uh-huh. Got 3 young, beautiful girls, Jessie, Annie, and Lisa Marie. And so me and Mary are out driving in Northbrook, just doing whatever we're doing. And then we go into Northfield, which is right next to Winnetka. in that northern suburb, small little cute suburb. We're driving down Sunset Ridge Road, and I see this massive Tudor house going up on this property. Drive by it again. I'm looking at it. Big, long front yard, huge in back, and I see tennis court thing in back. I'm like, wow. Stop, and I'm looking at it. It's only like half built, but it's framed, though. It's all framed.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful white stucco and redwood cedar trim, and the whole wraparound driveway here, and this, and the whole thing. And I looked at Mary, stopped the car. I said, Elvis had Graceland. I want Placeland. So I'm like, I got to have this place. I said, we have to buy this place. They had the sign out there, the realtor. I call, and it was a house built by a guy named Chuck Page Builders. So I got a hold of them, and I said, how much you asking? A little over $1 million.
What year was this roughly?
This is 86.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. I called up my realtor, and my house had gone from being worth $300 to worth like $550. And then have a mortgage on it. So I talked to the realtor over there, and I said, I think it was 1.1 million. But I'll give you $1 million for it. She goes, no. The houses around here, they sell well. It's 1.1 or nothing. I said, okay. I said, I want it. She goes, oh, meet me. I met her, and I gave her a check for $100,000 as a deposit. Me and Mary agreed we're going to buy this thing. And I said, all right. So that was my next purchase. And
so how much do you think you remember you were making roughly at that time?
Oh, that year, I think I made $2 million that year.
Wow.
Oh.
Predominantly from filling or
Both.
Trading? Equal, half. Yeah.
Both. And then, but in 85, when I first started there, I made some good money at the end of that. So I had making some good money in 85. Between 85, 86, I made several $1 million. And, I should have just stayed put.
In retrospect, because you gain wisdom as you get older. Did you lose yourself back then?
No. In retrospect, it was all still the same between when I first started until 1989, when I left the S&Ps and bought Derby's deck in the Eurodollars. That's when it all changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't have to buy anybody's decks or anything like that. And that's when it all changed. But back then, even though I was spending some money, there was value in it. And I wasn't investing in nightclubs or doing this
True.
or
That's
doing
true.
that. I wasn't doing anything like that.
Yeah, true.
Anything I was buying was worth the property I was buying. It had value and everything else.
And so even though you spent $1.1 million on the house,
It was worth $1.1 million.
You're making $2 million a year. Most people buy a house, it's 20 times their annual income.
Right.
You're buying something.
I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
And so, no, it wasn't until we, in the second half of this, when we come back, that's when we'll do that's the second part of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And my first part's by far my favorite. So, and my happiest. Yeah. So we bought the house. Said, okay. And I met the builder, and I said, okay, well, now we got to add a pool. Now we got to add a cabana. And those tennis courts, they're old and shitty. We need new tennis courts. We got to redo those and blah, 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 blah. Because I had like an acre in my backyard. So we got the plans out, started doing it. He told me who he uses in the area. I think it was Rosebrook Pools and Chalet Landscaping and all this. And I said, okay. The house was almost 7,000 square feet.
Mm.
And then the basement was another 3,000 square feet. So you're talking 10,000 square feet of living space. So we designed everything. I designed this cabana, rolling shutter cabana, 2 brick planters, kitchen, dishwashers, stove, refrigerators, his and her bathrooms. I mean, top notch, all cedar, brick, all that kind of stuff. Dressing rooms. And I built a pool. I made it, I think, like 44 by 20, whatever. Huge patio. lighting, new landscape. I mean, going nuts. And, so we figured we knew it would be ready. And it was getting close. We put our house up for sale, but I was going over there and always changing this. Then got another interior decorator to do it. We had a lot of rooms to fill up, 6 bedrooms, 6, 7, I don't even know, 7 bathroom, whatever. But it was awesome. We were super excited. And things were going great. It was the best time. And that's when we're doing that. S&P started getting a little crazy. And we had our first little mini crash, I believe, in January of 86, maybe, or whatever it was. Or I'm trying to remember. Because the other crash was October of 86. 87, 86. Anyway, started getting a little crazy, and that's when Vic Spilatro started trading. Got to know him, and I met his buddies, Matt Newberger. I don't know if you remember Matt.
I do.
Vic and Andy Feldman. So I became close with those guys. Just love little Vic to death. Great trader.
Sharp.
Sharp.
Dressed to a T, man.
Dressed to a T. To a T. And he was hilarious. And, nobody messed around with Vic. Then I met, I met his sister, Maria, who's married to Paulie DeLucia now. I don't know if you remember Paul.
I remember Paulie DeLucia.
Yeah, he was in the
Great guy.
One of the all-time nicest guys ever.
Absolutely.
And he was in Euros for a while. He was in S&Ps, Euros, and back to the S&Ps.
Did he do well? He seemed
I think
so
he did okay.
low key to me.
Low key?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did okay. He wasn't flashy. There was nothing about him.
I liked him a lot.
We all know who his grandpa was.
Yep.
So, he was low. I used to call him, I called his grandpa the waiter. Okay, I called him the dishwasher. But no, great guy. And, that was that whatever you want to call it, that was royalty. Those families merging. So,
yep.
But we were busy. It was crazy. And Vic was a great, great trader. And we're going to get to a story about him where that guy was a few days away of being worth tens of millions of dollars.
One of the biggest plays ever, I heard.
But he was shy of it. He was a few days shy of it. Because I was there for it.
Was he getting long or short?
We can get right to the story. So with Vic, great trader, ballsy trader, and he's flashy, but he was so freaking awesome. And I just loved his energy. He became a really good trader. And before the crash, okay, the stock market dropped 500 and the S&Ps dropped, what was that? I don't even know what it was. A few days before, if I can remember correctly, remember this is 40 years ago, he was short like 800 cars.
Which he probably didn't have the margin for that either.
No, he didn't. So Alan Freeman, I got called up to Jimmy Clennis' office. They called Calentus because Alan Freeman, who ran Rosenthal, he cleared Rosenthal, was scared of Vic. So and his family. So he didn't want to tell him to have to get out of your position. So we got called up there and whatever, trying to remember, but all we knew is they gave me the order to go get him out. I'm like, shit. But I think it was 800 cars. I remember correctly. So
which is
I
crazy.
knew I had to go down in the S&Ps and buy these in. And I knew, and just like if anybody knows, especially if somebody knows what's going on here, somebody thinks you're buying 1,000 cars, they're racing the crap out of you. So instead, I go down. It's kind of slow. Like what's here, call it 20, 30. 500 and a half. I'm 500 and a half.
Wow.
Fill or kill. 500 and a half. Blah, blah, blah. And then for myself, just to make it look like I was selling, I think there's maybe 20 cars bid at 20. What are you bidding on 20? 20? Sell you 20. Now did the 500 at a half, giving them a thing. Now they think I'm selling that 500 lot. Okay. So I'm short 20 cars. And then there's offering some. And I'm very quietly, buy 20. Buy this. I took my sweet ass time doing this to the best I could. Anyway, the time when I went down there, it was a loser. But I think by the time I got done buying them, and Vic, you're watching, you can correct me. It was for somebody. I think he might have made $125,000 off everything.
Which on 800 and spoos is like a scratch.
So,
right?
But still,
yeah.
I remember he gave me a big kiss and a hug because I really wanted this to work for him. Okay, and I set aside everything I was doing. I do remember saying, "Give me every sell order around here, every sell order around here." And I remember telling the brokers around there, "You get anything of any size to sell, you're coming to me first." And I remember somebody got a sell order and I raced it. Just to, it's like one of those things where, a guy next to me would be like, "Hey, I got 400 to buy stop at 72 even. If you have anything to sell up there, let me know." I said, "Oh, I'll let you know." Yeah. It'll be me. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
You know what I mean? So anyway, that was the story with Vic. And then the crash comes.
He was 2 days off from being
2 or 3 days. I don't even know what day.
Ever.
Biggest play in spoos ever. I mean, because when the crash came, it came. And then the next day after the crash, okay, we had the crash. It was the next day after the crash that we opened, I don't know how many handles lower. Mm-hmm. That's where he would have made it, killed it. Because we opened, I think they stopped trading until they reopened it. The day after the crash is when we opened like 60 handles lower again. I mean, and Vic would have held on to some of these things because he had the lead. He would have made tens of millions of dollars. I mean, but the good thing is, and the way you look at it is he didn't lose tens of millions of dollars.
Right, that's true.
Okay? You got to look at it that way, so. But I mean, that was classic, classic with that. So, that's the Vic story. And it was great. I really tried hard to do that. But 86 was, buying my house. We had the little mini crash. Did great on that. We're filling and billing. We're trading. Kalennis got me a little bit more business. He got his percentage of it, but I was my own man. Mm-hmm. And then some of us started calling me Elvis and the Colonel, me and Kalennis, Elvis and the Colonel. In the meantime,
that's pretty awesome.
No, it was insanity. I remember Mother's Day, for Mary's Mother's Day, I got her a candy red 560 SL for Mother's Day. I had my limo. I had another, my Porsche, my Mercedes.
It's amazing.
It's
your whole story up until now. Like this is we call these the golden years.
Yeah,
right?
No, this was the golden years. And then, I had everybody helping me fill these orders. We could dual trade. It was easy peasy. We all took care of each other up there. Got to be like a family with all the spike traders. They were great to work with. You had a problem, they helped you with it. And you just traded back with them.
And Borsalino's becoming a powerhouse at that time, right?
Not Joey yet. But Joey was coming. But Lewis was. Lewis was a powerhouse. I loved him to death.
If you knew nothing about anything and you were observing that pit when it was busy, he would stand out.
Stand out, beautiful. No.
He was the shit. So
he was the shit.
Yeah.
And you didn't mess with Lewis. Okay? You just didn't mess with Lewis. But he was also flung it around like there was no tomorrow. He made a ton of money from the crash too. I think actually when the crash came, he was in Europe. Lewis was in Europe on family vacation, whatever he was. We had the first crash or the first mini crash, whatever it was. I'm just trying to remember. Lewis said, "The hell with this," and he flew back. Caught the next flight, flew back to get in the pits. And I think he did real well by that. Joey at the time, I think was just starting out trading, and before he became him, he became such a powerful force.
He wasn't regarded as big as Lewis, though, right?
Back then, no.
Did he ever get that big?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he did?
Bigger.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Bigger.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, Joey became a monstrous powerhouse, going into the maybe late 90s, into the early 2000s. Then when I went back in the pit, still back in that. Oh, no, Joey. Joey had, his 8 guys with him. They all had their guys with them all the time.
He was a tough kid too, I heard.
Joey?
Yeah.
Forget about it. Him and Lois, they were beyond tough. Forget tough. They were tougher than tough. But great guys.
Yeah. My uncles, they were all in the same neighborhood. So
got it.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was just happy to be friends with them.
Yeah.
So in the Spoos, we started 86, maybe 87. We get me, JoJo, Dro, a lot of guys. We'd play home run derby. We called it ace ball. So on a Sunday morning, we'd go to like a Loyola field or whatever where the fences, a ball field, hard ball field, a regular Nutrier, 3 1/4, 360, 400 cent, everything. And we'd play home run derby. You like 5 on a team, 4 on a team. I'd pick up a couple of cases of balls every day.
Would you use a pitching machine or?
We just pitched to each other. So it would be Alabek played, JoJo played, I played, Elliot, the manager of Flint Waldock, played,
That's hilarious.
Dro played, everybody played, and it would be like 5 on 5. So if it was all right-handed hitters, it was left and center. You had a pitcher, 2 infielders, 2 outfielders. It was singles and home runs. My brother-in-laws would play.
How much fun was that?
It was the greatest thing in the world. And let me tell you this. Nobody outside of a pro ball player could hit a ball further than JoJo.
I was going to say that. I heard JoJo was a badass.
No, badass. He had this freaking bat. Okay, I couldn't even get it around. Okay? With this freaking barrel, JoJo would knock the living shit out of that hard ball. Okay? I thought I was pretty good, hitting some home runs that were, went over maybe went to 340. Forget it. JoJo was clearing the center field fences at 400 on a basically a lob pitch.
Yeah. I heard he was a fabulous ball player.
A fabulous ball player and 16-inch softball player. Yeah.
I mean, didn't his team they were legendary nationally?
Legends. Yeah. So we would do that every Sunday during the summer. And then a guy, Tyrone Evans.
I remember him too.
Big Ty.
Yeah.
Built like a goddamn Adonis.
Was he a pro footballer?
His brother Vince was.
Okay.
His brother Vince was Chicago Bears quarterback.
I remember
Vince came
that.
out and played home run derby with us one
Oh, wow.
So now Tyrone and Hassan are playing. Hop are playing.
Yeah.
We're all playing now. You know what I mean? And this was our Sunday morning thing, man.
Unbelievable.
And it was ace ball.
That's awesome.
And I let Elliot from Lynn Waldock, who was their floor manager, great guy, but he just liked to be our mascot and come, check it out. So, but we let him, be our guy, and we had some good times with that. But we had the greatest time with that. That was just one of my favorite times, actually. And we did a lot of fun stuff, and a lot of crazy stuff. I took the Morgan Stanley team to Las Vegas. There was a guy in the pit, you might not remember, Tony Castellano.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, traded the back months of the S&Ps. Stocky Tony wore those clogs and stuff. But I know he had his relations. He lived in Wisconsin. So I knew I wanted to go to Vegas. So he set me up at the Desert Inn at the time, with his friends at the Desert Inn. And they gave me the entire top as a favor to Tony. I took the whole Morgan Stanley team, clerks. And, needless to say, it was a crazy couple of days. And the reason I'm even talking about it is because I was pretty good at counting cards. I was very good at counting cards. And so I went to the Desert Inn, and Tony gave me the name of his guy there who met us. Robert Berrigan might have been. And Tony has passed away since, so God bless him. And anyway, so we got to the Desert Inn, and we all got, they got the suites. I got more rooms, the whole thing. I bring 20,000 cash with me. They already gave me a credit line anyway. They pre-approved everything. So we get there, and We're playing that night. Now, like I said, I had played before and I never lost. I was great at counting cards. So playing and I'm winning. And I took my spot at the end, and I'm letting, all my guys are sitting at the tables, this and that and that. I tell them to hit or not hit. I'm betting, and into the night, I have run my 20 grand up to over 100, playing smart. We call it a night, call it a night. Got all my chips, and I gave a bunch of them to, all the guys, whatever you want. Tens of thousands, what do I care? The next day, and everybody was up all night, of course. It's Las Vegas back in those days. So the next day, someone's going downstairs and they say, it was a Kentucky Derby weekend. So I give like $1,000, whatever it was. And they go bet $1,000 on the Kentucky Derby. I win it. So now I get like 30 more $1,000. Okay, whatever it was. Then we're having our day, and then we all get back down there Saturday night. I gave everybody all their money and played slot machine. I did all that stupid stuff. Anyway, long story short, I start playing again, and I'm winning.
Blackjack?
Uh-huh. Then they come up to my table. You got to go. I'm not going anywhere. And now I'm feeling no pain, okay? You're counting cards. I said, no, I'm not. They go, you're done. You understand me? So then I get a little smart. I go, you're not kicking me out of here. Then I say, Tony Castellana, My friend, Tony's come over and says, Jimmy, come here. He goes, you're done. First of all, you can't smart off to people. You're done. You and your whole crew are done. You got to go. Okay? You're up a lot of money. Keep it. Okay? I said, F them. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, a couple of guys there, all of a sudden, we're not my friends anymore. And I went up to the room, and then my guy called my phones got shut off to my room. My suite. And then, but I could dial out from one of my guys I brought his room. And I called this guy and I called my friend. They said, leave. You got a problem. You got a big problem. You can't be disrespectful like that, everything else like that. So I called from one of my guys' rooms, Chicago. I said, I think I got a problem. Okay. So this person, whoever called them anyway, long story short, I got to cash all my cash, okay, everything else like that, and get it all. And I had to leave the hotel. But I got escorted out by certain people where they had some cabs waiting for me and stuff. So to make sure I got out of there and everything else like that. And anything that was maybe going to happen or whatever, you got to remember this is, 85, 86. My ex-brother-in-law was a big pit boss over at the Hilton International all the time. So I called him. He says, gotta get on over here. So we got over there, and he told me, you're a fool for even acting like that over there. Because this is what the Desert Inn people, blah, blah, blah. So he got us a few rooms and everything. And all of a sudden, I'm at the pool the next morning, okay, and I see 3 guys following me around. I get in my elevator, 3 guys are in the elevator. I get off the wrong floor on purpose. They get off the wrong floor on purpose. So now I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, I'm being followed. They're going to get me. I get everybody up, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we're out of here. We're gone. I'm leaving this. Whoops. And get home, bring all my cash home, throw it on my Mary at the bed. I'm like, here you go, Mary. Tens of thousands in cash. Here you go. Yours. I'm like, wow, that was kind of creepy and scary. I called my brother-in-law at the hotel. I go, I had to leave. People were following me. He goes, You dumbass. I had them following you to make sure nothing happened to you.
Oh, wow.
He goes, I just made sure they followed you around to make sure everything was good. Okay, and keep you in line in case whatever. He goes, those are my guys. I go, they were following me a little bit too close. I noticed them out by the lunch, by the pool. He goes, no, those are mine. So that's my Vegas story. So
That's awesome.
I kept going there. I just was, later would start going to the Golden Nugget actually. So, but there were some wild times like that.
So I tried card counting too, because a broker brain, and you're made for that. Right. You're made for counting under pressure. And I got a bunch of books on the shelf. I read the different systems, but here's where my problem was. I could count. I could have conversations with people while I was counting, and knew when the decks were getting rich. Right. But the systems are made for you to make 5 or 10% in one session, and my brain doesn't work that way.
Same here.
If I go with 10 grand to play blackjack, I want to walk away with at least 20.
Right.
I don't want to walk away with 11,500 and think I had a killer session. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I couldn't press the bets properly, overpress the bets,
Right. But also, I mean, look, the luck of the cards are the luck of the cards. Sometimes you get your 21 and so do they. You get your 20, they get their 21.
Right.
You get your whatever you're doing, when you're getting cocky and you start splitting face cards because you're on a roll, because the dealer's got a 4 showing,
Right.
A lot of it's a luck. I mean, there's a system to it, but then you can't get greedy and stupid, and then you start chasing and all that other stuff. I couldn't handle sitting at a table where a stranger was there and him hitting on a 14 when the dealer has a 5 showing. I couldn't handle it. It's not what you do.
Right. But the book says bad play will help you and hurt you the same amount of times. But we only remember when the bad play hurts us, not when the guy took a hit on 14 when the dealer's got a 6 showing and the dealer busts and you win, so.
Yeah. No, I get it. But I started after that. I apologized to Tony Castellano. He said, you're a lucky guy. He goes, they were pissed off. And you know what? He goes, there was nothing I could do about it if you were going to catch a beating. He goes, you must have been really mouthing off. I go, I have to say, I hadn't slept for a while and I was mouthing off pretty good.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, that was the end of that. And I did call and apologize and everything else. But after that, I went to the Golden Nugget, not the one on the strip, the one off the strip. And guy named, I think it was Mel Green or so, but always won and always had a good time there. So. And was never a jerk again. So
nice.
So that's just the Vegas part. But the mid 80s came, the crash came, man. And it started off a day before, kind of. And then the crash came and you would have felt like the sky was falling. And it was nothing compared to today. The stock market broke 500 points. Okay? 500. We do that in a day here on a whatever. But back then it was like catastrophic. And these spoos, boom, boom, boom. And the system wasn't built for something like that. The margins, the everything else. I mean, this killed some people. Some people got very wealthy off it, but this killed some people. And I just remember how crazy it was. And, right after the mini crash and the day after the crash, I mean, I remember we had our crash. Steve Dorn, I don't even remember Flash.
I remember the badge, Flash. For sure.
Yeah. So he was a trader in the pit.
Wasn't he like an athletic guy?
No. He was a small little guy with the little mustache, kind of a bald head. Barry Lynn called me on that night after the crash and said he stuck 46 cars, at this. I go, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I go, worst case scenario is we get out of 46 cars, we lose money, we'll make it back. I go, you know the deal, Barry. He's like, yep, I trust you. Because just so you know, tomorrow you have to get him out of 46 cars. You're going to be buying him 46 cars. I said, okay. And so Barry goes, good, you got it? And then I can sleep tonight. I said, you got it. Because, hey, if people lost money, you do what you can to help them make it back.
Yeah.
So we came and that was the day after the crash where the infamous Lehman Brothers order from George Soros, of all people, okay? Sell as many as you can, okay? Because they were panicked still. So
and you hit him to buy.
I had to buy. Oh, yeah. This is good. This is good. So I go in that morning. I got to buy Mick Morkin and Mullins and everybody. It was Mullins. He goes, I have thousands to sell. I go, okay, don't tell anybody. He goes, I got thousands. I said, all right. So now I know I got to buy 46 for Flash. And now I have a 60 lot out trade. Okay. I am out against Lehman, whatever it was, on a Lehman order. I was short 60 cars. I was out to buy 60 and they didn't know them. Okay. And at the time, they said, that's your problem because we were higher than that. And there was no call yet. So they were a loser. And I remember doing them. He goes, no, you're on your effing own. These 60 years, you never bought them for me. I sold them to the guy next to you. Okay. Okay. I go, so I own these 60. I'm short 60. He said, yeah, you are. It's okay.
Now I got 60 and 42 for the guy.
46.
46.
And now, but there were losers on the board, according to that. But I'm like, all right. And I got there super early in the morning. Didn't know a call. What were we going to do? There wasn't electronic trading. There was only, maybe you can make a call. Nobody's going to tell their broker at 7 a.m, sell me 5,000 cars. Okay. That you don't want that out there. You know what I mean? Okay, so I got to buy this. I'm like, okay. And then some guy, FJT, House 700.
Frankie Taddeo.
No, that's Frankie. God bless Frankie's soul.
I thought he was FJT.
No, it was another guy. No, not Frankie. F something.
Okay, gotcha.
He was with House 700. I forgot the name of it. And he was a freaking jerk too. We had a 15 lot out trade. I said, screw you. I got them too. Don't worry about it. No, I'm short 15. It was a short of 10 lot because we were crazy the day before. I'm short 60. I'm like, okay. And I think it's a dime against us, like 10 handles against us. I'm like,
and Mullins tells you, I get there, to sell.
All of a sudden, Mike is like, I got this to do, and I got to sell these. I'm like, okay. So I go back to Lehman Brothers, and I'm on their order. Okay. My order was a Lehman Brothers order. I said, I'm going to cover this for you. Okay. You're going to be short 60 because it was an order I filled for Lehman. I go, but you know what? We're going to split it, win or lose. I go, fine. Sandra Donovan, who I knew, she goes, okay, we'll split it.
That was nice of you.
But it was their order, and I couldn't take the other side of my order. I had to buy them in for Lehman Brothers. Okay. So at that time, you couldn't take the other side of your own order. So now I'm Lehman. The guy doesn't want them because it looks like they're a loser to him. So I go to Lehman and I say, I'll split this with you. They say, done. 50-50, Jimmy. Because I knew them all. It was Sandra Donovan, Lenny Teifeld. I knew them all. We all worked together so great. I said, okay. And the openings come in, and now I'm like, this thing is going to get trashed. I'm like, all right. So I tell a few people upstairs, I said, listen, I think this is going to be an oversold opening. I think you got to buy this freaking opening, okay? And that was just my gut feeling. So the guy goes, Barry Lynn goes, okay, buy me 10. Somebody else goes, okay, buy me 10. Then stop me out, whatever. Now the opening's coming, and I'm like, whatever it was, I'm like, 30 even offer, 20 even offer. Mullins is just like, I could just sell them, And he ends up selling thousands of cars, and I'm waiting as he's getting them off. Then I'm like about 400 points below the market, and I'm like 96 even on 150. Sold the low.
Wow.
And I had an order to buy for Bear Stearns too. I think I might have bought 200. I had an order to buy them for Bear Stearns. I'm waiting, I'm watching them, I'm offering, and I just give him a bid. He hits me on all of them. Boom. And unfortunately, Mullins they're saying he sold too many. They told him just keep selling. Sell as many as you can. So there was a big thing. And then, how many did you sell? And I can't remember it to a T, but he oversold thousands according to them.
Was that the 100 versus 1,000? Was that the order?
It was thousands versus thousands.
Because I heard the legend was there was a Shearson order and they had a guy coming from the board working the desk. And he was doing this because that's 100.
No. This is thousands. Mm-hmm. They ended up short thousands more. They said just keep selling whatever you can. Well, he did, and the market started to buy them. Now I think they were short several thousand S&Ps, and then they had to buy them back.
Wow,
they had to buy them back. Okay, I buy the dead low of the whole craziness, crash, pre-crash, everything. And I just can't remember too much about it. All I know it was insanity where clearing firms wouldn't let their clearing firms who cleared a broker, like Westcott or somebody like that. They're clearing you as you're the broker. They're like, you can't fill orders in there. A lot of firms said you're not allowed to fill your orders. I got out of bullhorn. I said, bring it on all over here, baby. I'll take everything you got. So, and I went to everybody. So lots of houses came and gave me their business. And unfortunately, most of them took it back a couple of days later when things settled down. But I filled everything. I took everything they had. I stood up on that top step. I said, take anything you can get your hands on. We will take it all. And a lot of the upstairs brass had called me and thanked me for that because a lot of people wouldn't touch orders. It was that scary to them because you're hearing the stories. But anyway, long story short, Flash made I'm going to say 400,000.
Wow.
Okay. On that little
when before the opening, he was stuck.
Right. Last night, stuck. But the good thing about that was I told Barry, win or lose, we'll handle it. I wasn't scared. Lehman Brothers, that 60 lot I covered for them and gave them their fill at the low. It's worth $1.2 million.
Holy crap.
Okay. It was whatever it was. And I got a check for Flash made more than that then. If Flash was 46.
That's right.
No, but yeah. So whatever it was, my error, they gave me a check because I want my check today. I want it today. I bought you to the low. Bob, I was willing to eat it. They gave me a check that day for $570,000, I think it was. And then I had a 15 lot over there that the guy was bitching at me about. I took that and I think I made whatever on that, but they were much lower. I think Flash's was even lower than mine was. Flash's was a lot lower, so he was really stuck. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
Flash's ended up being $500,000 maybe, but my 60 lot was a lot higher. His was a lot lower where he was stuck.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So yeah. You know what I'm saying? So his wasn't worth as much as mine, but when I told Barry Lynn, I said, hey, Flash came over. Here you go. I remember he kissed me on the lips and hugged me. Barry Lynn called me, blah, blah, blah. Plus, Barry was long 10. A couple other people were long 10 that I told them to buy that opening, and I got them. They sold theirs out because then Lehman had to start buying.
Right.
Okay. They sold their 10 lot out. On their 10 lots, they made $150,000. They were very happy about that. Barry was very happy about. Steve Dorn, Flash, wanted to buy me a pony. You wanted to buy me a Porsche. Let me buy you a pony. Let me buy you a Porsche. I'm like, man, I'm good. I go, we're friends, man. I don't need anything. I said, if you were stuck, we would have made it back, man. So, but I'm good. I got a lucky fill here. And I went home with over $600,000 in checks that day. Okay. For mine. Everybody was happy. Bear Stearns bought the low on like a 65 lot, whatever it was, ecstatic. And then it got so thin in there, though. And I know Lehman had to buy some stuff back. And I was buying anything I could get my hands on. There's somebody over there and just selling them over here. And I think they ended up making like $1 million off everything, over the whole thing. And it was absolute insanity. But when you look back at it now, it wasn't even much of a range. We do 10 handles in the S&Ps like it's nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do 80 handles in the S&Ps. I mean, I've seen days like that in the end days when I went in there, you know, and there was no minis. You know, people in the mid 90s when the minis and late 90s, early 2000s, I guess, you know, my brain, the minis is what they traded off of. It took away a lot of talent later on. You know, if the minis are, you know, that's 5,000 offered at 2 even in the middies, the order filler goes, you know, buy 500 at 20 from you. You know, you buy 5,000 minis, you buy those 5,000 minis, you just made, you know, a couple of ticks on a 500 lot. You know, your price was, you know, in there for you to do that. These guys like the Lewises and the Vic Rossies, there was a guy, and Chuck Corbett, Louis Lauder, they all traded without minis, anything. It was all just guts. And even when it got to Joey Borsellino and he was flinging around, it was all guts. You know, it was later on where the minis, anybody trading the minis, you had an edge. You know what I mean? You could get out right there. You didn't know the market. You didn't have to wait till orders came in. The computer actually made that pit much more stable. You know, so. But you know, so that was it was a crazy time. And then they me and Harry, it was August of 87. Everything had calmed down after all this, you know. I think I have my dates straight. And I apologize if I have a couple of them wrong. You know what I mean? But whatever it was, my 86 might have been the first volatile markets restored. And then, you know, when was the crash?
I always forget. It's either 86 or 87.
Yeah, October. I don't know. It's October, one of those months. So, but we're flowing along, you know, and everybody came out good. Some guys lost, but I remember there was like $250,000 errors in the pit and stuff. Like Ike from Spike Trading, Compliance. I traded with all those guys. Compliance called it the house that Ace built. Spike Trading was the house that Ace built. You know, and I remember Mike had problems. I lent him $1 million for something, the firm, whatever it might have been, but he paid me back. I did a lot of people out of favors. But, you know, after all the craziness came down in August of 87, me and Harry decided we want to have a Halloween party. Let's do a Halloween party. We rent out the Park West, we get it going, and we ended up having 500 people. Basically, the whole pit was invited to the Halloween party. I left out a couple of people who I didn't like, but and friends and family, and I wanted to be Elvis. So I had my secretary, Marcia, at the time. I gave her the name Bill Ballou. He designed Elvis's suits for when he started touring again, doing concerts in 69 and 70. And even his 68 special. So I said, you got to get a hold of him somehow. I want the Eagle white jumpsuit. I want the cape. I want everything. The belt. And I had the belt at my house. I almost brought it with me. She tracked down through somebody, and I don't know how, because you couldn't Google that back then. How did you check? Now you look back and go, how do I even know to do that? You know what I mean? So you had to look up Bill Ballou in a phone book or try to get to somebody. Anyway, she got a hold of him, and then he directed me to people who he designed to people who actually made the costumes. And one of them was in Hollywood, a guy named James Wiggins and his wife, Jane. So I got a hold of them, and I said, here's what I want. And they said, that's what we do. Because they also made suits for like the Ice Capades. That's the way these suits were made, so you could stretch and all that. Same people who made Elvis's suits also made them for the Ice Capades and other stuff like that. So Bill Ballou got us in touch with them, and I flew out, and they met me at the airport, and they took me to a Holiday Inn hotel and made me strip. I was like, this is kind of weird. This guy's a crazy-looking weird guy, and his wife's nuts, and standing there naked in a hotel room with them both in my underwear. And they're measuring me and shit. I'm like, you know, this is kind of weird. Anyway, so they do all the measurements. I said, am I good? Are we good here? I go, let's go downstairs. So I got out of there in a hurry. Because I'm basically naked as they're doing some heavy duty measuring. It's not like it's this is, and so anyway, they designed the suit and the same exact Aloha from Hawaii suit with the white eagle, the big cape with the eagle, cost a fortune.
Any idea?
$15,000 back in the day to have all this done.
Shit.
And then they took me to Hollywood where we had to go buy white boots to go with it. So they took me up and down Hollywood, which I wasn't familiar with really. I was there once with my wife Mary in 1980, I think, or whatever it was, 81. And we never really went to Hollywood. But and then scarves. I needed the scarves. All that stuff. And the sunglasses and everything. So I said, okay. I left. And they said, it'll be ready in October. I go, it's got to be ready in October. And we rented out the Park West. Harry was being this giant samurai warrior. He was incredible. The whole makeup, the whole thing, incredible. And everybody was incredible. The costumes were incredible. But leading up to mine, it's October now, and I can't get a hold of this James Wiggins. Okay? His wife had gotten sick. And I had lunch with her that day in Hollywood. She was all sweaty and she didn't look well. So I can't get a hold of this guy now, and I need my suit. Okay? And I put it off $5,000 deposit down. I need my suit. They had sent me the belt via the mail, and it came, and it was outstanding. I even wore it. I wore it into work. This is the belt. Now I can't get a hold of them. So it's mid-October, and I can't get a hold of them. I fly to LA. I go to his house, straight from the airport. He answers the door. He said, Mr. Wiggins, I need my suit. I've been trying to get a hold of you. Well, I just got done burying my wife, Jane, and all this, and she was very sick. I said, oh, you're kidding me, and blah, 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 blah. He came and showed me, because it was a studio. He goes, I'm here at it. I was going to call you. I said, sir, it doesn't look quite done yet. Quite done yet. He goes, it'll be done. I said, I'm so sorry about Jane. And he goes, I know. I go, you know what? You kind of look like Elvis's dad, Vernon Presley. Because I've been told that. And he had a British accent. I've been told that. I said, how would you like to have some fun? He goes, what do you have in mind? I go, you're coming to my Halloween party, okay? And you're going to be Vernon Presley. He goes, you let me do this? So I said, yes. He goes, and he went into a big story about how he'd taken care of Jane. He didn't want to tell me she was sick back then, but she was sick for about a year. They've gone through all their money, okay? And everything else, and they're supporting her. They're artists, they're, costume makers. They don't have the best insurance in the world. They're a different breed of whole people, show business. Well, long story short, he flies in the day before the party with my costume. Brings it in. I try it on. I'm like, okay, perfect, great. It fits the whole thing. I got a makeup guy coming to my house the next day. The party's tomorrow night. All that great stuff. I put him up at the Drake. I get him a thing, Vernon Presley. I get him a mustache like Vernon had to put on and put your hair up. He's Vernon Presley. He's happy. The party goes off fantastic. Out of this world crazy party. But when Mr. Wiggins was leaving, he asked, are you okay? And he goes, no, I'm broke and this and that. But he was very nice. Wasn't asking for anything. He was just being honest. He was an older man. They were older. They were in their 60s. Been doing this their whole life, in this show business. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. He goes, they're going to kick me out of my studio and everything. So I'm like, okay. I'm going to call you this week. Make sure you answer the phone. So I called him and I said, what do you owe? blah, 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 because the studio is also his apartment. So I ended up dealing with the apartment and studio directly and paying. Talk to them. You're not kicking him out. This man, his wife just passed. You can't do this to this man. And for about a year, I paid his rent and all this other stuff. And then on my birthday in 1988, the doorbell rings. And I had talked to him in between that. And me and Mary had gone out to Palm Springs in between that. And we bought a house in Palm Springs, actually. And so we saw him out there. We met him, and I met him. And I had told him to come down. Anyway, it's right before my birthday, June 27th. It's 1988. Doorbell rings. And it's this big thing in a frame in this big box. Special delivery. I open it up. I look inside. And there is a giant frame of pictures of Elvis in doing karate in 1970s, early 70s. And the big middle picture is Elvis doing karate with his karate instructor, whose name was Kang Ree. And he wrote, "To Master Place," blah, 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 blah. Kang Ree. And he had the TCB badges, stuff for your karate gis, all this stuff in there. I'm going to show it to you. Signed by him, blah, blah, blah. And then a note. I read the note. "Mr. Wiggins has been my dear friend for a long time. And he told me what you've done and what a big Elvis fan you are. And I wanted to make this for you. And I wanted to give you this special gift." Now, I didn't open the second one yet because this letter was on top of the frame. I open up the second one. And in this long black frame is a copy of an Elvis belt. The one that the International awarded him for breaking the attendance record when he had a 32-inch waist, whatever. And from what I understand from Mr. Wiggins, that Elvis had given Kang Ree, he had made copies. For his own belt, Elvis put diamonds in his and everything else. And for the copy I had, that was the copy he gave Kang Ree. He had a few copies made, but they were just, gorgeous. He gave that to me.
Wow. So he was given it by Elvis,
yes,
and he gave it to you for helping
Mr. Wiggins.
Yeah, wow.
Because, Kang Ree, from what I understood and researched, and I know who he was, but very spiritual. He basically, in a sense, we can't thank you enough for what you did for my friend.
That's awesome.
And all he's been through and everything. So I got that, and I still have it. So my daughter's Jesse's basement right now. I moved a couple of times, so it used to be hanging proudly and everything. I always worried somebody would come in and steal it.
Nice.
So those are my couple of Elvis stories for now. We'll get to Elvis later. So
yeah, so this is a good spot to wrap it up. And I just wanted to finish with this. I didn't know you too well on the trading floor. I just knew of you. But then you moved to the Euro dollars, which we'll get to in our next part. Yep. And you always had a reputation for being extremely generous to people.
Well, thank you.
And that's meaningful.
Yeah.
So
thank you. I was taught that by my parents.
Because a lot of those guys that baited, big or bigger than you, they weren't necessarily that generous.
You know what? If I can say this, some have been very generous to me when I went through hard times later on. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will say this, no matter generous or a jerk, okay? You must admit this, when it came time for a charity or anything else like that, these guys wrote their checks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or when a guy had bad luck on the floor, okay? Or when he got hurt on the floor, people came out of the woodworks, including myself, and wrote checks, okay, to make sure his family was okay. He didn't lose his house and everything else like that because we were fortunate enough. But I will, of course, every place has their jerks, guys who made tens and tens of millions forgot where they came from and wouldn't give you 10 cents, and they wouldn't donate $1 to the March of Dimes. You know what I mean? Of course, there's some of them, but as a whole, we were the most generous people you ever met when it came to helping friends, for charities, foundations, politicians who got their claws into us really well too, with all those PACs from both sides. But, we could have hated each other all day, and something happened the next day, you'd have your arm around that guy saying, what can I do for you? That was part of us too. You know what I mean? There was some jerks, but back, especially in the day from where I came.
Yeah, those were the golden days, right?
Yeah, the golden days, the 70s, 80s, and even into the Eurodollar days, when I met a lot of the people, when we get into that, and I'll name a few who were so generous with so much stuff. The Mendezes and the Pat Mulcrones and there was a ton of them that were so generous with whatever we all had going on, and the charities that I would work with, children's charities and things like that. But when the chips were down later on, some surprising people weren't there to help, and some surprising people were. So. But I know what you're saying, but as a whole, we were a brotherhood.
Yeah.
We were a freaking brotherhood, okay? And, something we'll never see the likes of again. We were pure capitalism at its finest.
Yeah.
We were free markets for free men. We were capitalism at its finest and in its rawest form in that pit. Screaming and spitting and sweating from all walks of life. Johnny PhD walks in, we ate him for breakfast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joey from Bridgeport or Taylor Street walked in. Okay. He got the hang of it with the street smart. He'd kill it.
Monster.
Monster. Okay. And all the rest of us in between where we came from.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We were an awesome band of brothers. You will never see the likes of again. And we were the Hollywood kings of Chicago. If Jack Nicholson was waiting for a table, he waited for that table if us commodity traders walked in. Nobody spent like us. Nobody tipped like us. Nobody helped people like us. No matter who you were, no matter if you were red or blue, no matter what, you asked, we did it. And I'll get into some great stories in our next episode.
Awesome.
We're ending with the S&Ps. Eurodollars is next. And Frank, love your brother. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my God, what a great time, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing those stories. It'll get a little spicier on our next one.
It's gonna get a little spicier, yeah, because you know what? Like I said, that was the golden age. That was me before my life got complicated, before I got too big for my britches, before I got involved with too many things and too many people.
Yeah.
Back then, up until 89. Easy peasy, baby.
Yeah, nice.
It was life at its finest.
Thank you for joining us on the Warrior Podcast with my special guest, Jimmy Place. We will have at least one more podcast. We're going to go into the dark ages of the trading floor. And wow, what a great time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you at our next podcast.
See you later. And TCB, baby.
Yeah, baby.